Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Stephen Jarvis and Friends podcast. Today, I'm not doing this alone. I have a special guest who is the namesake and franchise holder and the driving force between Worthy Chaos Comics and also Fated Chaos Comics. Her name is Carissa Grant, and here she is today.
Hi, how are
Hi,
you?
how are you doing today?
Good.
Not too bad. Hopefully the interview isn't so buggy and all that.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Anytime. Sorry about last time. I had a family emergency and it was just like, oh God.
Oh, totally understand. It was a bad week anyway. Like 8 interviews canceled in just that week. So like, I don't think it was you. I think it was just like one of those weeks.
Yeah.
And they all had good reasons except for 2 that were no shows. So I was like, well, everyone has a good reason. I can't get mad. It's like everyone had something. But
yeah. Well, and that's the thing, you can't really get mad at certain people. I've had certain guests that didn't even tell me that they were going to be not able to make it.
Yeah, the 2 no shows bothered me because one of them it was their idea for the interview. It was their date and time, and then they didn't even show up, and then they didn't answer me for 48 days where they're like, "Oh, I didn't know we actually booked it." So I sent them the screenshot that said them agreeing to the date and time and picking the day and time, and then they never answered. And then the other person just never got back to me. I have no idea what happened to them. So
yeah. Sometimes people and guests can be kind of hard to deal with sometimes, but at least we got this scheduled. We're doing this interview today, and let's hear about the start of Worthy Chaos Comics.
So Worthy Chaos is a weird genre all its own. It's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Supernatural in Silent Hill and the Resident Evil world. It's both horror, supernatural, adventure, survival. It's like a survival game all in one. What it follows, it's Seraphina, a angel descendant, supernatural hunter, and Draven, a demon descendant who's an assassin, and they are trapped in a town merging with hell as their 2 fathers, a demon and angel, that they don't know are there. We do. We're watching them and we're listening to them try to get this angelic weapon from Seraphina, which she was created from, and it has the power of souls. So if either father gets it, they could tip the scale of the war in heaven or hell's favor. And they don't even know that they have this weapon. They have a key. It's a keychain. Though, I mean, if you look at it, you're like, how do they not know? But it's just something she's had since she was young. She didn't even remember where she got it. And so you have these, they go through pretty much fight everything. They fight hellhounds and ghosts and zombies and zombie mermens and Anubis and vampires and skeletons and everything you could possibly think of. And their main goal is obviously to survive. And how it officially starts, it sounds like a spoiler, but it's not. It's the whole premise of like the beginning. So in issue 1, in the first couple of pages, you see a flashback of Seraphina as a teenager, and it's showing that she was going to run away with Draven. So he left to get a weapon to get her out, and she discovers her brother possessed by a demon killing her parents. So she called Draven and told him not to come, which of course is the first thing he did. So he went in the front door and she jumped out the back window, and he slipped on her blood and called her name. She turned around to go back and got hit by a car and was sent somewhere, was in a coma for a couple months, and he wound up getting arrested for her murder. So both thought that the other one was killed by her brother. So she became a supernatural hunter and he became an assassin. And for 10 years, they thought that they were dead. And the demons and the angels couldn't find them because they weren't together, and they need them together to activate the weapon. So when Draven moves closer, their souls send out an alert, and you could see the angels and demons trick them both into being trapped in this town. And so you follow them, and then you try as they try to get out of the town. Now, there's a couple of things. One, it's 45 issues already written, and it's about 7 to 10 issue arcs per book, and there's 5 books. So this is book 1. we're live with issue 5. So issue 6 is already done. It'll be Kickstarter on August 15th, and issue 7 will be October 3rd. It's about halfway done, and then also the graphic novel will be released. But what makes the story a little bit unique is that the two characters are written by two completely different people. I write the story, and I write everything about Serafina, her thoughts, her actions, her speech, and everything like that. And my co-writer writes everything that Draven says, does, or thinks. So you have these two completely different personalities, and it makes it a little bit more unique in the story because when you read it, it's not monotone. You can tell the difference, and they even speak different. So it's not me being a great writer. They're actually two different people. I am not that good of a writer. They are two different people, and it makes it a little bit, more unique. So we got that going for us at least.
Well, I read the first issue. I loved it.
Thanks.
I mean, and that's not me just blowing smoke up
Sure.
anyone's ass, but it's really good. And that's why I like a lot of the independent scene for comics, because that's where a lot of the good comics started.
I agree. I mean, the mainstream used to be great. I used to read Ghost Rider in the 90s. I used to love it, but they severely have lost their passion. It became, half the artists and the writers and the scripts, and they don't even know what the story is about. They just do what they're told, and that's it. You go find an indie creator, and I support all indie creators. I think that they're all remarkable. It's an amazing community, but you have this passion story. I mean, we don't make money off of this. Like, I'm going completely into debt, but I'm such in love with the story that I can't help but keep making them. And I've been told to slow down, and I probably should. But my artist, Jonas DaCosta, is super fast. He quit his job to do this, and I don't want him to go anywhere because he's absolutely amazing. This is his first paid job in comics. He's not just a paid artist. He's absolutely phenomenal. He does all the panel work. As you could tell, he's very good at the storytelling and the panels. And I just tell him a couple of, I originally started with 5 to 6 panels. But with him, I had to cut it back, which is why it's such a longer series. I had to cut it back to 3 to 4 because he turns them into this incredibly action-packed, scene. And I had one critic say, you could cut back on panels and it would be cheaper and you don't have to show everything. It's not a movie. And I was like, you know what? I've been praised for the panels. People like it. It looks like a movie and they kind of like it. So it's like a movie novel, comic book.
Yeah.
And we do have thought bubbles, but originally thought bubbles in, older comics, they were kind of exposition. They kind of told you what was going on or what was going to happen or whatever. We actually get inside the character's head, which is really why I used to love to read novels. If I saw a movie, I saw a favorite movie, I'd want to go read the novel, be like, what was he thinking when he was doing this? And so now you get, especially Draven, because the characters are a lot like the writer. Mine talks way more than she thinks, not to me. And my co-writer, is way quiet, but, thinks a lot. So that would be Draven. And so you have that unique personality there, and you get inside their heads and the internal struggle, especially him. You get to see how, he doesn't feel worthy enough to be with her. He's killed people. He's done horrible things. He's done worse than killing people. So to him, he was completely closed off and cold-hearted without her there. Mostly because, one, he thought she was dead, and 2, because when they're not together, they share a soul. So he was completely, dark. He's gone darker in the past in some prequels that we wrote, but right now he's gotten a little bit better. He's still a dick, though. he's still not a nice guy. He's like an anti-hero. He will do anything on the planet for her, but he will not lift a finger for anybody else unless he thinks she wants him to. And Serafina will save everybody. She's like, oh, they're in danger and blah, 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 which he hates it because then it puts her in danger and he's like all mad about it. So, but yeah, indie creators are just a lot more passionate. So I don't even read the mainstream anymore. I just focus. I back like a ton of indie creators, and I've never been disappointed by a story. They're always really, really good. So.
Yeah. So how did this process start with thinking it up, getting the idea, and then putting it pen to paper, or as some do, pencil to paper?
So what originally happened was, I had this story idea. So I was a role player. I used to play Resident Evil 2, and I got so obsessed with it, I actually started role playing as Claire Redfield online. So I used to the writing kind of role play where it's kind of like D&D where you're writing on paper, but we write a story out, and then the person writes back their side of the story and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I did that for 15 years, and I held on to this story about this angelic weapon that with the power of souls. And I had a lot of writers want to RP with me, but for some reason I just held on to it. And I met my co-writer one day, and I don't know what it was about them, but instantaneously, like the next day, I was like, "Do you want the role?" And they were like, "We don't take roles." Yeah, we want it. So they actually, so we wound up writing it, and we wrote it. We're still writing it. We're still writing more. We have 11 novels written that aren't, published. It's just for the comic. So this wasn't intentional. We wrote it, we got obsessed with it, and we kept writing it. And in 2 years, we were almost 11 novels in. And we just passed the 1 million word mark like 2 weeks ago. So we're still writing. How it officially became a comic book was, it was such a good story that after the 5 novels was written, and half of the others, it's 5 novels for this series and 5 for spinoff, and 1 towards the prequel. So we had gotten an editor thinking this story is really too great to not share it, and we just thought other people would love to read it. So we got an editor, and the editor's like, you can't really release it like this because we're role players, so it's written in 2 different points of view.
Yeah.
And they're like, you'd have to merge the story and pretty much rewrite it. And she said it would be worth it, but you'd have to do that. And we're like, well, I don't want to merge the story. I didn't want to ruin it. I'd rather get no money than ever destroy my story. So I said, listen, forget it. Well, I'll just print it for us, like lulus.com. I'll print it into a novel and we'll write it. We'll read it ourselves. So I went looking for an artist for a cover, and all of them were cartoony. And we were role players, so we had actors in mind. So I asked my co-writer, do you want me to keep looking to find someone more realistic, or you want cartoony? And my co-writer said, let's just do cartoony. And like a light bulb went off. And I was like, well, if you don't mind cartoony, we can do a comic book. And they were all for it. And it took a long time to find a great artist. And I originally had another artist, but they stole $3,000 from me, and I tried to fix it for $2,000, and it just didn't work out. And I printed it up, and I didn't like it. So I found this artist. So after months and thousands of dollars, I finally found an artist that I really like. And I wound up having him redo issue 1, and was just like, it was hard to throw away $5,000, but it was absolutely worth it. The story is so much better with it, matching all together. He makes the characters look exactly how they were in my head. So I got really, really lucky with him. And he says he's going to stay around for all 45. So here's hoping. He's actually upset because I said, you can't do this. I wish you could do the spinoff. And he's like, why can't I do the spinoff? I was like, you have 45 issues. You do what, 7 or 8 a year, and then that's what, 4 years, and then series 2 is going to start, which we're already 3 issues in. So unless you start cloning yourself, we're kind of just stuck with doing this series. And I would love for him to do the spinoff too, but I don't even know if we'll see how popular it gets and all that. So we're focusing on Redemption for now, and hoping we can get them. I did see got a publisher at first. And all of them said they wouldn't even read the proposal because they said, we won't look at, I already had 3 issues done, but I hadn't released them yet. And all of them said, we won't look at any proposals if there's over 3 issues in the story. And I was like, what? I was like, why not? They're like, well, financially, it's not worth it after the 3rd one. Like only half the people read the 2nd one, and even less read the 3rd one. And I was like, well, then you have the wrong story. Like you have to get a story they want to read. And he's like, well, you'll never get, more than 3 done. And one said, you'll definitely never get, them all done and all this. And I was like, well, then I'll just do it myself. So we're trying. So we'll see how that goes.
I mean, like you said, a lot of the indie promotions and all that. I'm an indie podcaster, so you can see how bare bones my office is. The only thing I really got up there is Jason Voorhees mask. So
Well, there's an Easter egg in every issue, and I think that's one of them. So that's in one of the issues. But if you're into 80s and 90s, definitely look for the Easter egg. The Easter egg in 1 and 2 are from Resident Evil, though.
Yeah.
So a lot of people might miss it because it's from the game. But yeah, we have Nightmare on Elm Street Easter egg, and we have I'm not sure it's in book 1. I'm trying to think. I know I can't say them all because there's a contest when the graphic novel comes out in Halloween. Whoever finds all the Easter eggs and posts it first will get one of our 3D RPG printout of Anubis.
Okay.
So my brother wants it. I was like, all the Easter eggs. It doesn't count. So there's that. But we also have some unique add-ons for our Kickstarter. So our Kickstarter has a lot of tiers. We have like 20 tiers, and then we have even more add-ons. One of them is being drawn in as a zombie in issue 8. So not only do you get to be, in a zombie, you get to either stagger on or pick your death. And that includes the PDF, which you get like 3 months earlier than it's even released. So you'll have it earlier than most people. So there's that. And the video of our Kickstarter, which if you want me to play the video, I can. If not, it's fine. But the music on the video is a song that we had written and performed and sung just for our 2 characters. And it's an add-on for $3 in you get the vocal and the instrumental version for that. And right now we have we're like I think $51 from the 4th stretch goal. So we're almost there. So right now, if even you pledge like $5, you're going to get the black and white version and the color version on PDF. And you get 16 other PDFs that are issue number 1s from other indie creators. So for $5, you're going to already right there, you get, 17 stories. Plus, we already passed the stretch goal of a mock-up. It's a black and white version of the spin-off issue 1. It'll be redone eventually, which is why it's a stretch goal, but you get to see how it starts, the what if story, how it starts.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's some stickers, and I think we're almost to the trading card. There's a trading card from DC artist Ken Hunt, who worked on Batman, Harley Quinn, and all that. And the colorist is Lady Death. Current colorist for internal pages, CC Dela Cruz. And they also did the graphic novel cover, which is getting colored now as we speak. So
nice.
Yeah.
Is there any other type of comics that you guys are going to be doing, or are you guys, going to stick with the God, it's Faded, right?
Oh, it's Worthy Chaos. It was originally Faded. You probably have the logo, right? That's why.
Okay, yeah.
The logo was originally Faded Chaos, but we found out there was like 4 novels that were titled that.
Yeah.
So we decided to go with Worthy Chaos, and it fits so much better because throughout the story, her angelic blood, it causes all these issues, it causes trouble, it attracts everything evil to her. And so she always feels like a burden to Draven, and Draven always says, well, you're worth it. So she's the Worthy Chaos. So it actually fit way better. But so it's Worthy Chaos.
Did you take the name Draven from The Crow?
Yes.
I was like, I wonder, which isn't really taking it. I mean, there's a lot of people that would even put Eric in there, and it's like,
yeah, it wasn't originally on purpose. Now, The Crow was my absolutely favorite graphic novel, and I literally just got it signed by James O'Barr like 2 weeks ago, and he actually took one of my copies, and it wasn't intentional. I was getting 2 issues of my issue 1 signed, and after he signed 1, he goes, "Is this for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, it is," because I just like the thought that he might actually read it. Yeah, I waited 30 years to get a signature. But so what originally happened was I had sent my co-writer a list of names of somewhat evil, demonic name. And one of them was Draven, and we both were really attached to it. And after we saw it, we're like, oh, it's the crow, the last name of the crow. And we're like, yeah, that's what we want. So yeah, he was a huge inspiration to me. I even when I started these scripts, I literally took the graphic novel out and just had it next to me. So it was kind of like a safety blanket, if you want to call that. So yeah, it was definitely an homage to Draven. I told him that, which he thought was cool. He's very hard to read. He's a really nice guy, but like I said, I waited 30 years for this, and he's like, "Well, I'm glad I didn't die on you." I was like, "Me too." Like, yeah, me too. But yeah, he was super nice.
Good thing Brandon Lee's family wasn't there when he said that.
Oh, right, yeah. That was the worst part, because you want to like love the story and watch it over and over again, but every time you do, you always have that heartache. And it was such an important film to him. It was awful.
I was born the year that he died.
I was in high school.
I was born in February, and he died that March of 1993.
I was born, and I was in that was my first year in high school. I think it was my first year in high school. I was born in February too, February 26th, but it was like 1978. So I'm a little older than you.
Yeah, mine was February 12th.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's cool that you used that last name. And I don't know if from what I saw of the character Draven, it reminded me so much of the Crow.
Yeah, he has that kind of, I don't want to say stoic, but like depressed kind of like loss to him, which is, I mean, for 10 years, even when he has her back, he still doesn't believe it. You know, like, you're not really here, you're dead. But it's so, what amuses me about it is he thoroughly believes it's a nightmare, but he still won't let anything hurt her.
Yeah.
So he's like, I just can't bear to see anything happen to her, but I know it's a dream. And I when I first wrote it, like I first handed in the script, the letterer at the time said, he was very upset. He's like, I think they should be kissing and everything, and so relieved to see each other. And I was like, did you read the story? Like, she thinks it's a demonic trick. He thinks it's a nightmare. And 4 seconds later, they're attacked by the town of ghosts. Like, when did you want them to do this wonderful thing? And it actually isn't even until this issue 5 that they even have like 3 pages to even talk to each other. And they do get their first kiss but that's about as romantic as the story gets. I mean, it's been called Romeo and Juliet in Hell, which it kind of is, because the fathers are after them and all that, but it's not a mushy story. I mean, the underline is that they love each other and they'll do anything, and you get to see the limits of what they would do for the other person, but there's no time for any romance whatsoever. And I don't even think he says I don't think he says I love you until like book 3. So he's a little bit slow. And even in this one, you could see that internal struggle where he's like, I know how I feel. Why can't I just tell her? So like he's bantering it back and forth, and finally he just comes out and says, just don't leave. Like, that's as romantic as my character gets. So he does absolutely would do anything for her. He loves her. It's just he's very closed off, and they're both. And that's a little bit different how it is in the spinoff, because in the spinoff, it's like a what if story where what if they actually got to run away that night before the parents were killed, and how different would their life be? And at first it was a joke. And I'll tell you why it was a joke. We got so into the story that we were upset that they lost those 10 years together. So we like wrote a joke. We're like, what if they didn't? And at first I'm thinking it's going to be so boring. They're teenagers. But then I realized that it's actually worse, because now she's not a supernatural hunter. She's not very brave. She's not an assassin. She's not as strong. They don't even know that supernatural exists, and they're all still after them. So it wound up being an amazingly intense story of these two characters that are bonding and growing. And since they never had those 10 years apart, they're actually closer than they've ever been. Their angelic and demonic powers come out more because they were together longer. And so a lot of things happen in such a different way. And the two stories are kind of mirrored, like little things are mirrored. Like they lose their memory in Redemption, and they lose their memory in Salvation, but they're completely different reasons and have completely different outcomes. And there's like allies and enemies in Redemption that wound up being the opposite in Salvation. So it was kind of funny. We didn't realize that we didn't do it on purpose. It's just that 10 years changed people's attitudes, and the weird enemies in Redemption wound up being allies and the other one. And you're like, we didn't realize it till it's over. Like, we just realized this guy's really a jerk in this one, or, he's kind of an ass. I don't know what's going on, but it's a completely different kind of story. But I really hope we can release it someday, because it's got a lot of cool elements that this one doesn't have. And this one's cool too. Yeah. Obviously, it's got a lot of action. It's nonstop, a lot of character development. There's a lot of twists and turns to it. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that people have no idea about. They don't know about the prophecy that caused it. They don't know why the father really wants the weapon, even though he says it's for the war, but something's not right. Yeah. And even their failed guardian, Camille, that you saw with the hat. And I don't know if you caught this little tiny things that we do to torture our people if they find them, which now it makes you look more. But that kind of thing in the movies where they wake up and they turn on the TV and it instantly tells you everything you need to know, very exposition. Well, she wakes up from the dream, turns on the TV, and it instantly tells her, what's going on. You look at the back of the TV, it's actually unplugged. And the angel outside is the one controlling the TV, which he hints to in the next page, where he's like, "You're already going there anyway." And she's like, "How does he know I'm going there?" Like, he doesn't know. So we do little things like that, the little details. And that was technically their guardian angel in their past life. And he screwed up royally. And he kind of hints to that in a couple of issues where he's like, how come when I did this, it was supposed to be the right thing to do and it failed, and all this stuff. So, and then of course there's Anubis, who looks like a complete and utter monster in 2. If I didn't give you 2, I have to send you 2. But he looks like a complete brutal monster in 2. But then you start to see another side of him. He's being controlled by the father. Her father has a remote control that he holds, and it's got the runes on it, the spell Anubis, and he's controlling him. And you can kind of see him working through that. Like in issue 4 at the end, this hellhound comes up to him with a stick and he just throws it, and the hellhound goes after it. So he's playing fetch with the hellhound without realizing it. And then in all the other issues, you see the hellhound next to him with the stick in his mouth, just kind of following him around. So Anubis starts to fight through this, and you can see him start to realize that he needs to get away from this situation. And he wants to help Seraphina. He kidnaps her in book 2, and of course it doesn't go well because nobody knows he's trying to help. Especially thinks he kidnaps her away from Draven, because Draven's technically got the elements of a demon, and he tries to get away. So there's a lot of undertones, a lot of characters in there. But yeah, there's a lot to it. It's not just a survival story, but it's obviously one of them.
It's that, and it's also love and love lost.
Yeah,
like you were saying earlier, and that's where the parallels with The Crow and the graphic novel are, which I almost went to. I live in Minnesota, so they had like a convention gonna be here, and I almost got to go because James was there.
Yeah,
and I was kind of like, you know what? If I go there, I'm probably going to be that one person that's like, so how do you feel that a person that was going to be a megastar once this movie came out died?
Yeah.
And it's not his fault. It was an accident.
Yep.
More on the prop department, what happened to Brandon. But at the same time, we lost out on a franchise that could still be going on today. I mean, they were going to have Brandon Lee in every movie. He just was going to help out a new Crow in each movie, kind of like how the TV show would later become, and I think even how the comics later became, if I remember right.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. I mean, we would have had really good movies. I haven't seen a lot of the after ones, but without him, I didn't really.
City of Angels, the second one, is really is good, but after that, it's like I said, once Brandon died in the first one, it pretty much set the tempo of the other ones, because every time, and now with Bill Skarsgård, going to be Eric Draven in this new one, it's just like every time I hear someone say they want a Crow remake, it's like there's a reason why it took until now to get it done, because no one can touch Brandon's performance.
Absolutely.
I don't care if you put Bill Skarsgård and he nails it. You're never going to touch the performance because Brandon Lee stopped working out. He adopted the whole grunge appearance, which was huge in the 90s. And I mean, no actor would ever, well, I mean, Heath Ledger probably would be the only one I could see doing it.
Yeah.
But no actor could ever get to where Brandon was.
Yeah. He lived the role.
Definitely.
He was definitely in the role. Yeah. Yeah.
He loved it since the first time he got that script. And the sad thing is that was his swan song movie, kind of like how Enter the Dragon was his father's swan song.
Yeah.
And I kind of said this in one of my episodes that, isn't it kind of weird how both died before they hit the mega stardom? Because Bruce died, I think, a week before Enter the Dragon hits theaters.
I didn't know that. I knew he died on the set, and they called it a curse when his son did. I didn't know it was like a week before it.
I think it was. It
sounds familiar, so I think you're right.
And it was actually going to be the first ever big American blockbuster that featured martial arts.
Wow. Yeah.
And that would have shot his father up to amazing standards. So maybe it is a curse. Who knows? I mean, there's so many theories out there that, the triads that didn't like what Bruce Lee had teaching foreigners martial arts went after Brandon. And I think it was both accidents that happened. And
yeah, I think the mother thought it was a curse too.
Well, at first, and her and Brandon's widow, which they were supposed to be married in April of 93, sued. And it's telling when the guy who plays the guy who shoots Brandon Lee's character pretty much gave up a year of acting, could not watch the film.
Yeah.
Even film great Ernie Hudson can't even watch the film.
Yeah.
And the guy who played Funboy, who was the one that shoots Draven in the movie, he even said when they did an interview later in like early 2000s that, his girlfriend has a store, and every time when they would walk back to their apartment or their house or whatever, he would see Brandon's widow pushing a girl on a swing and they're having fun. And he's like, that's Brandon's daughter, but I don't ever remember Brandon and her ever having kids.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's on YouTube. The actor you feel so sorry for him because he blamed himself up until the day he died.
Yeah. I mean, that's how do you live with that? It's not his fault, but how many times can you say it's not your fault? And before, it's just always going to be if I hadn't pulled that trigger, or if I checked the gun, or if I didn't point it directly at him, or any of that.
Well, that's what a lot of people have said. Why do they ever have to point the gun directly at someone?
Yeah.
I mean, now you have the shooting with the Rust shooting and all that. And of course, automatically, CNN has to have Brandon Lee's sister on there because, hey, how'd you feel when your brother got murdered or shot accidentally? It's just let this family be.
Yeah.
I mean, Brandon and Bruce both, they're gone. And it's very sad because they weren't just actors. They were in their own way poetic. And with this comics, that's kind of how I interpret it, as both characters aren't just characters. They're poetic in their own way.
Yep. It's actually a huge compliment for you to say that, because that's kind of how we see Draven too. And it, he's always that way. He's always, not thinking that he just believes that he shouldn't be with her because he doesn't believe he deserves her, up until, the entire time. He's just like, she's everything he's ever wanted, and
she's too good for him. He doesn't deserve that happiness.
Always. He always
Good
feels like
God.
yeah, for those 10 years, the things he did, and he can't even tell her what he did. Like he feels like if he tells her, she'll run, and obviously she wouldn't. But in book 4, she actually sees what he's done, and it, she doesn't think anything less of him, and in fact, it actually makes her love him more because this person that was so closed off and did so many things to treat her as delicately and as caringly as he does. It's a huge difference. But yeah, he's completely different around him. And it's so funny because you have this character, especially later on when he starts to get a little bit more comfortable with how close they are. He has the love of his life, and he'll call her sweetheart, and then I'll turn around and like beat someone to death. Be like, I got the sweetheart, and then attack and beat somebody up. So the way he just protects her, and he always says it and especially we're writing book issue 7 now, and I just got pages back, and it's very intense because the angel says Seraphina's death is what activates the weapon, and she's like, the angel keeps saying, if you allow us to kill you, then Draven will be saved and millions will be saved. And Draven's like, I don't care about millions, there's only you. And he literally would let the whole world burn. And there's something at the end of book 2 that he actually has a choice, and the angel's like, you can't do this or the world will burn. He's like, I don't care. So he would literally destroy everything in his sight just to protect her, and we all want that kind of love.
I mean, if my wife was out here, which she's in the other room, she could tell you straight up, that's how I exactly feel. Is that, coming from a broken home like I did, I never felt like I deserved happiness. Yeah. Never felt like I deserved her love. And when I read This Worthy Chaos, I kind of told Alyssa, I was like, God, if they ever made a movie about this, I would want to be that actor. I would want to be Draven, because it's so weird, the parallels that, like, I even can conclude with how you just said, how he doesn't deserve it, or, but if push come to shove, if he had to take his own life to save her, or let the world burn to keep her around, same way.
Yeah, my husband's the same way. He always says and I always feel bad that he thinks this way. He's always like, I'll flat out say, you're the best husband I ever could want or have, and he's like, just keep telling yourself that. I'm like, it really is true. He does everything for me, and he takes care of the house, and he's very protective. So yeah, like you, I think he's amazing, whereas he doesn't see that.
Oh, definitely. I'm the same way.
Yeah. And in the story, you don't get to see it until the prequel, but they were both from broken homes. He lived with his father, who would beat him or get drunk or whatever. And then her family were abusive to her. And that's actually why they were running away with each other, because Draven just couldn't take with how they were treating her. And he's like, I would do anything to protect you. If we have to live in a cardboard box in the woods, I don't care. We're going to, and I'm going to provide for you and figure it out. So it makes this spinoff so interesting. The parallels of these two teenagers that just, they have nothing and they don't care. They have each other, and it's actually a really good story. And I really hope, like I said, to release it. We have issue 1. I had an artist that actually did it for free for me, which is why I have it. And I love seeing it, but that's why I wish my artist could do it. But we'll find someone, hopefully somebody that's new as well, because giving someone a chance is to be be an artist or be a part of it. It makes it so much more different than having just some paid artist that'll send me a couple of things and never talk to me.
Yeah.
And he gets, my artist gets really emotional about it. He'll be like, are they going to be okay? Because he doesn't read ahead. And I'm like, of course they're going to be okay. We just torture our characters. But, and he went away for 30 days. And my husband said, don't bother him. Don't ask him questions. Don't let him enjoy his vacation. I was like, of course, I'm not going to bother him. So I didn't send him any messages. And 2 weeks in, he's just out of the blue. He's like, I miss drawing the story. He's like, I wish I was there. And I love the story. It gets so addicting to follow these characters because you really feel for them, and you get to you root for them and you want them to see them succeed. and the story gets way worse for them as it goes. And it's so funny because my favorite. I know you're not supposed to have a favorite. My favorite is book 3, which is issues 15 through 24. So I cannot wait to get there. So I always forget how good 2 was. So I was working on the script for 2, and I was like, this is, I know I'm biased, but I was like, I forgot all this stuff happens. They're trapped in this haunted asylum and they get separated in there, and he has to hear on the radio that something happened to her, and he's like thinking something happened. He's trying to get to her. I mean, they face zombies and ghosts and these giant salamanders on the ceiling that are like the Lickers and Resident Evil 2. So it was such a good story, and I forgot because all I cared about was 3, which is so wrong because it's all good. But but book 3 was originally the story I wanted. So when we were RPing, we would actually RP out of order. And we kind of jumped around. Like if we had an idea and we wanted to do it right away, we'd be like, all right, and half the time we have 2 going at the same time, which you think would be confusing. But we get so excited for a scene that we have in our heads that we just have to write it like right away. Especially if it's like something really emotional or, heartbreaking where they have to go through stuff. And we love to see how they handle it. And when I send my co-writer stuff, I have no idea Draven's reactions are through it. Though after 2.5 years, I kind of know what he's going to say, but I never know what he's going to think. Like I always get surprised when it comes back and he's thinking these deep thoughts and you're like, I didn't think that he thought that deeply, and it's kind of like, and even as my character's in my head, she's always like, I don't know why he puts up with me. So I really do. I love the bond they have. It's a really important thing for me, and I can't call it a romance story, but it really kind of is a love story. They're soulmates. Yeah. They've been through lives together, and they never remember it in the next life, but they're always drawn to each other. And as soon as they're in each other's presence, they instantly, they can't be parted, and in the we have one prequel made, and the artist didn't do it as well as we wanted, the script's not as well as we wanted. So I kind of consider it a loss. It's going to be redone, but you get to see how they meet the first time and how Draven almost screws it up because he's nervous around her and he's not used to that because he's this tough teenager, bad boy. And he's just like blattering out these, what to him sounded like compliments and to her sounded like, not so much compliments. But instantaneous, her brother was there and tried to hit her, and he didn't even know who she was. And of course he stood in front of her and all that stuff. So instantaneously you could see that bond. And even though he kind of accidentally told her off, but I love everything about them. And I gotten so obsessed with the story that I just can't wait for the next pages. And I get like 2 to 3 pages a day and it's still not enough. I'm like, I need more. Like I need to see more. So I can't wait to have this arc done. Not arch. I can't wait to see that have the arc done. They're all continual, they all create one story, one series, but they're in different environments. So book 1 would be mostly in Silent Hill, on running the streets or whatever, dealing with the Clotters, which is our vampires. And then you have book 2, which is a haunted asylum, and then something horrible. And then book 3 is in a town filled with zombie, infested humans and lab creatures like Resident Evil 2. And then after that, they're on an island for 2 books. And those are probably the most brutal. Brutal is the island. But yeah, I mean, and just to clarify, the Clotters, so our issue 5, 4, 5, and 6, they're dealing with Clotters, and it's a subspecies of vampires. We made a subspecies so people can't be like, those aren't what vampires do. But our vampires are, they have a heartbeat every 6 hours, which is just enough to keep off rigor mortis. So they have very clotted blood, thicker, more powerful. And because of that, they need more protein and more nutrients. So they have to feed directly from a human. They can't do it from a bag or an animal, or they start to decompose like a vampire or like a zombie. So they have their souls still, kind of their conscience when they become vampires. So a lot of them will just decompose because they don't want to kill another human. So the Clotters started to turn the most ruthless people that there are, serial killers, sociopath, anyone, So they became the most ruthless subspecies because they would survive being more ruthless. And if they bite you or taste your blood, they can track you anywhere like a homing beacon. And if you kill one in the family, they will track you down no matter where you go. So, of course, one attacks her, she kills it. And then that's the little side plot is that they have to go and trap every single one of these vampires that they don't even know how many there are. So there's that hunt going on with that, and a lot happens in there, and it's really good fighting and all that stuff. So so we're on Kickstarter. Like I said, the easiest way to find us on Kickstarter is to search Worthy Chaos. We are the only thing that pops up, so it makes it a lot easier. And I think it ends like Monday, so you guys have like 4 days. But I will say, or 6 days, 6 days. I will say that if you go on Kickstarter and search us, we are always there. Like, we are always there. We're either pre-launch or live, because issue 6 will be August 15th and issue 7 is October 3rd. And then book 2, issue 1 will be January 23rd. And the day after the campaign ends, like 24 hours, we're in pre-launch for the next one. So if you go on there and you don't see this, you just wait 24 hours and we'll be there. So we are big on Kickstarter. We release it really fast, which is good and bad. I mean, a lot of people can't afford it, but we always have back issues available, and the add-ons. We always have an issue 1 tier. So no matter what, if you just want to try issue 1, we have the PDF and we have the printed, and then we have the current tier. And then if you want any other ones in the back, you can get them in the back issues, in the add-ons, even variants that we have left, or you can get a catch-up tier. We have a catch-up tier in PDF, a catch-up tier in print, and a catch-up tier in metal covers. So there's always a way to just, get in there. And a lot of campaigns don't have issue 1. I don't get why not. like if someone's new, they want to just get 1. I don't want to, make them get a whole catch-up tier. Maybe they only want 1. So
yeah. Good God. No, I love when guests can just get on a roll, and then all of a sudden it's like, when it's back to me, it's kind of like, But yeah, as long as I'm 30 now, as long as you do it before 35, 40, I'm your man for that role.
Okay.
I played a lot of sports in my youth and tore up my knees pretty good, and I had a friend of mine that actually wanted to do a fan film of The Crow.
Nice.
And he wanted me to be Draven. And I was just like, okay. He's like, well, can you do some of these stunts I need you to do? And I'm like, I can try. After the first day, because he had me jump from his house to a neighbor's house, which we had permission to do. And as soon as I landed on that roof, I went down in pain because my knees couldn't take it. And so he's like, well, maybe I need you as the Skull Cowboy, which was the guardian angel for Eric, and tells him what's going on and all that. And I was like, sure. So I was kind of miffed, but then the one who played Eric Draven was like, well, what if I did the stunts for Steven and Steven just did the acting portion of it?
We're invented to have
stunts. We're the same height, we're the same build, so I was like, sweet. And so we did it, and no one can really tell who it is, except for when the close-up of me hobbling, they're always like, well, that's Steven.
So where can I watch this now?
I wish we would have. My buddy didn't think of putting it on YouTube. So when him and his wife got married, it went bye-bye. Because he had a camera. Well, then that camera, they lost it in a fire. And it was just like, I was like, oh man, if we would have put that on YouTube, I said we'd probably be good.
Yeah.
Because I had watched The Crow in the early 90s. Granted, I don't remember watching it until about 96 when Sting, the wrestler, started doing it. The Crow stuff. And
oh yeah.
I was like, wow, you know. So then I had to have a refresher and all that. And I was just like, well, if I'm playing this character, I said, I got to do it the way that Brandon did it and the way that the movie portrayed it as. I said, I can't do it any different than that.
Right.
Because it's a tragic love story. It's the day before their wedding and they're murdered. And I said, I need to have that. Well, I was dating the girl that played Shelly at the time, who wasn't my wife. This was before I met her. And they did that scene, and I kind of had to withdraw from being there. And I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to see each other for a week. And that day of that scene, I said, we'll do it. That was a bad idea. All the emotions that day were flowing.
Yeah.
And when they did the shot, they mimicked it. So I actually get hit by a paintball.
Oof.
Right in the chest. And it's like,
Actually,
but
that's
it
pretty
wasn't
smart,
close
though.
range or anything.
Red
Well,
paintball.
yeah. We didn't
Add
want
the sound effect.
yeah, that's what we did.
I'm
And
just saying, for real, for big time movies, they should just do that.
they definitely should. I mean, if, like I say, if within 5 years, if they ever do a Worthy Chaos movie or even an animated film, heck, I could do that one.
Yeah. To be honest with you, that was our initial goal. We would like to have a rated R animated series, because it's violent and it would probably be easy to show animated. Also, it's such a long series that someone might age or whatever, but if the voice, usually stays the same. So if we had our way, that would be what we would choose, an animated. We would never sell the rights or license them, so it would have to be something that we did on our own, or figured out how to do. So if it's ever popular enough, we would probably do a Kickstarter from it, which we've actually seen raise. Like, there was an animated, that raised like $800,000. So it would be something we would definitely, that would be what we'd want to do. And we're hoping in about 4 years to pay off the house, and then I'm going to spend way more money. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I would love to do an animated series for this one. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to do voice acting. So
yeah,
again, if you ever need someone,
I'll write you down.
Yeah. Well, what was it, week, I talked with someone that was owner of an esports, or no, not an owner, but CEO of an esports team. And he's like, well, we need commentators. And he's like, I watched some of your stuff before I came on. And he's like, you got something going. And he's like, in some of your episodes, you can tell you're hitting the spot, but then other episodes, you kind of miss it. And I was like, oh, that's Steven Jarvis and Friends podcast. It never meant to be perfect. And he's like, no, I understand that. And he's like, I hope I didn't offend you by saying that. I'm like, no. I said, this is grunge. And that's the way I like it. Even if someone were to say, hey, pay you $1 million for the rest of your life, you'll be set, would you give up your creative control on it? And I said, I would say no.
Yeah. I would nenever sell this. I was asked that once, like, if someone offered you like $1 billion to lose all rights to the story, and I was like, no, because
it's you. It's honestly you.
Yeah.
And when I was on a network earlier this year, which they had let me go,
bastards.
No, it's no ill will towards them. It was a great experience, and I'm very proud that they had chose me to even be on the network. I never thought that would happen. But anyway, it was just like I always told them before I even joined that. I said, I need to have creative control.
Mm-hmm.
And they were fine with that. And then I think it became kind of less and less, which my production isn't as professional as some podcasts are. But like I said, I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm not any of the ones with the big name sponsors, but I'm trying.
Yeah, but that's not why people watch those. They want somebody real. They don't want, big names if it's not going to be a real kind of, podcast. So it doesn't matter what's in your background. I mean, you can always green screen it, which I hate. I know people do it, but you could tell it's green screen, which I'd
Yeah.
rather see a blank room. Like I have the posters on either side, and those are my interior artists posters, which I should probably move them over so you can see them. But I love his art, and you know, it's so funny because to see his art change, it grows so much in just 5 issues. And when he gives me issue 7, it's such an intense issue because all the things come out, that's what's been happening. And there's a lot of things that people don't understand, even though I hint at it. So when they're trying to explain it in issue 7, it's so emotional that you're like, it's just so cool to see it, drawn out. I love this story. The more it's horrible because I get more and more obsessed with it and the comic's not helping. Because like I was already obsessed with it, and now you think I'd get sick of it, but all I do is get more and more in love with it. Every new page is like a hyper rush.
Well, and that's the thing with content creators, we're not doing this for granted, yeah, the money, if that ever happens, yay, we're happy for that, but we're doing this because we love it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have my own business, and I'm perfectly happy with that. Obviously, if this made more, it'd be great. But I gotta be honest with you, my artist is completely underpaid. He picked this price, and he deserves double. So I think if it ever started making, what I originally told him was, if it starts making more than the expenses, then we would split it.
Yeah.
I'm the one paying for everything, and it gets kind of tough. But if it did make its money, but right now it's covering, mostly the artist. But yeah, if it ever started making a lot more, I would definitely share the profits with him, because his story, as much as he says it's all me and my co-writer, it wouldn't be anywhere without him.
Yeah.
They come for the art and they stay for the story, and that's what's important about it. And he doesn't think he's as important. He's like, oh, anyone could draw it. I was like, no, they can't, because I spent thousands looking for you. You were meant to do this story, and that's just how it was supposed to be. And everything, the more I look at it and the more pages I get, the more I'm just confirmed. And sometimes I get that overwhelming urge to just be so, that where you want to burst because you're so incredibly grateful that you don't know how to say it. My husband and my co-writer and my artist, I'm just so lucky to have them. So like you get this burst of like, I love you all and I can't do enough to tell you that. And that makes it really hard. So I'm always like, I appreciate you, and you need to know how much you're doing. And he's like, he goes, I know. And he's like, and I feel, and he feels just as grateful. Like he feels incredibly lucky to have the story, which means a lot to me that he says that. And he says he just loves the story so much that he's just so into it. And I think he knows to tell me that once in a while, because he'll just randomly say it too. He'll be like, just so you know, I love these characters and I love this story, and I'm so grateful to be doing this. And I was like, well, I feel exactly the same. So it's just a very lucky team, and I hope it keeps going, because it was, like I said, I just feel like it was all meant to be, and I feel like the story was made to be told. And as stupid as that sounds, I just feel like it was meant to be told. So I'm very excited about it.
It didn't sound stupid at all. I mean, when you have something you're so proud of, I mean, granted, people would look at, my YouTube channel. I only have 73 subscribers. So very proud of that.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. Buzzsprout. This year, after doing this for 4 years, I finally reached over 1,000 downloads.
Woo!
And one person in the network was like, well, but you're not doing anything other than that. And I was like, I was like, you know what? It meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
Because I never thought that granted, would I like 1,000 downloads on each of my episodes? Hell yeah. But to get it all time on just the podcast alone was amazing. And granted, I'm going to be doing blogs and all that. My first one's going to be about how Halloween kind of changed the whole aspect of horror when we were originally accustomed to Alfred Hitchcock, Godzilla movies, the Universal monsters, the Hammer films. And my wife, she's like, well, can I do that with you too? And I was like, yeah, sure. And so it should be interesting. And of course, I'm gonna, if you want a copy of this video after we're done, I'll send it right to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And It'll be on all my socials. So,
Great. I appreciate that. Yeah.
but all right. Anything else you'd like to plug before we wrap this up?
I think I've talked a lot, but I guess the only thing is one, search Worthy Chaos on Kickstarter, but also search it on Facebook because we actually have a Worthy Chaos group. There's a business page, just ignore it, like it if you want. but the group is really important because we support all indie creators. So any indie creators inside it can post links to their podcasts or to their websites or to their Kickstarters because we appreciate everybody. And artists and everyone can post their commissions and their examples or whatever. So it's a very great community. We only started it like 5 weeks ago, so we have about 640 members, but we are growing, and it's a very close knit family. So hopefully it'll continue to grow. But Twitter, we have 5.3 thousand followers. So follow us at worthy_chaos. I'm very upset that there's a Worthy Chaos that has no followers and isn't following anyone, and they're doing nothing with it. I'm just like, give me my name. So
Yeah.
So I'm very upset about that. But anyway.
Well, I'm so the page is Worthy Chaos Chronicles, right?
It's the website is worthychaoscomics.com.
Okay. And then there's this group on Facebook called Worthy Chaos Redemption.
Yeah, that's the group. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a group and it's a page.
I'm following, or I asked to join it. So.
Woohoo! Yeah. So the reason why it says Chronicles at certain places is because there is a Chaos Comics. If you know, Lady Death was originally from it, but they went bankrupt. However, if I ever trademark the name, it would have to be, I think that I won't get accepted unless it's Worthy Chaos Chronicles. So my business name is actually in Worthy Chaos Chronicles. So
nice.
Yeah. Oops.
But yeah, I did it. I'm following that. So, and if you would like to be part of a member in my group, I can always send you that.
Yeah.
And so, hey, you can get more people to, read this. Because when you sent me I think first and second issue, I think you sent me, which I'd love to get more. And if I have to pay for them, so be it. And I'll even do a review on them. I mean, that's how much I appreciate indie creators. Everyone says we're a dime a dozen, but really,
nope,
we're the diamonds in the rough.
That's right. That is the best way to say it. We most certainly are. Yep.
All right. Well, I will talk to you later. I will send this to you as soon as it's done. And hopefully you have a good rest of your day.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And everyone, that was Carissa Grant, part of Worthy Chaos Comics. She created it. She's also the inspiration behind it, the drawing force of it. Go check that out. And if you'd also like, I'm going to be starting a Patreon here soon, where for $1 you can be a member. I'm going to have 3 tiers. The first one's going to be $1. The second one's going to be $3, and the third tier is going to be $5. And with the first tier, just show that you subscribe to it or are, whatever, joined it. And then I will shout out your name on the podcast as a thank you for joining. The second tier has the shout out, and also you get to kind of request me to do an episode on a video at some point. And the third tier, which combines both the first and the second tier, but with the third tier, you also get to be in a drawing where you can come on the show and we either do a watch party or we talk about something. All right. So please go check out Worthy Chaos Comics. You can go to their Kickstarter, help them out. They're great creators. I've read the first issue and I fell in love with it right away. So please go check them out, help them out. Carissa is a great person. you'll be helping her out and making this thing bigger than possibly we'd ever think it is. So go check them out. Also, go check out the YouTube channel, which is Stephen Jarvis and Friends Podcast. You can also check this out on all streaming platforms where you get podcasts. Even hopefully I'll put it on Buzzsprout, or you can go on my website, which is StephenJarvisandFriendsPodcast.com. And who knows? Maybe you'll see a new trailer soon. Thank you all so very much for joining us, and I will talk to you all next time.